Hello and welcome to the end of the year book tag. It is October, the end of the year is coming, let's go. This tag was started by Ariel Bassett. The original video will be linked in the description. Let's get started. The first question is, are there any books you've started this year and still need to finish? I usually have a few books that I start throughout the year and just kind of forget about or unintentionally DNF. But this year I can actually only think of one book that I put down and didn't pick back up. I started it because it was really hyped, but I got to it a bit late, so by the time I started, the hype died down and I was only reading it for the hype, so I just kind of didn't care anymore, and that is Spare by Prince Harry. I think it would be really interesting to read, it's just not really a priority for me. I do think I just want to read it for like my own nosy curiosity, but in terms of what I want to spend my time reading, it's just not very high up on the list. The next question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition you to the end of the year? Yes, of course I do. I love autumn vibes. I'm actually in a very like dark academia mood at the moment. I'm about to start like quite a few books that have that kind of vibe. To me, dark academia is so autumnal. But I'm about to start Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which in my mind, I don't know much about it, but in my mind is super autumnal, and also Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. They're both so like Halloween-y in my mind, so I think they're perfect autumnal reads. I do, however, live in the Southern Hemisphere. In Australia, it's currently spring, we're transitioning into summer, so I thought I'd share with you a springy book. Springy is not the word I was looking for, but it'll do. I just realised I've had the books sitting in front of me and I didn't pick them up to show them to you, so I'd like to get to Ninth House and I'd like to get to Frankenstein. In terms of a spring book, I would love to get to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I don't know if this book actually does have spring vibes. I am basing this completely on the cover, the fact that there are plants and that it's like light coloured. But also in my head, fairies come out in the spring. I don't know why, I'm not basing that off anything, but when I think fairies, I think springtime. So hopefully this is a good spring-ish read. I feel like this book is also kind of dark academia, but not dark. It's kind of light academia. So I am very intrigued. The next question is there a new release that you're still looking forward to? And there is one. It came out actually about a week ago now, but that is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I've been waiting for this book since it was announced. I remember when it was just like the name of a project in the bottom of a newsletter, like this mysterious non-Shadowhunter related project that Cassandra Clare was working on. And now it's out and I actually can read it. I haven't heard any reviews of it yet. I'm trying to stay away from all of that. I haven't really engaged in any of the stuff that the author has posted online about this book. I want to go into it not knowing anything. I've only ever read Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter Chronicles. I don't know any of her work outside of that, and I'm really curious about what her storytelling is like outside of this very expansive world that she's created. So yes, I'm really excited about this new release. The next question is, what are 3 books you'd like to read before the end of the year? This one was quite tricky because I don't want to talk about the same books over and over again in this video, so I've picked some other ones. Starting with Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. I actually started this book a couple of months ago and the first page was incredible. It absolutely drew me in. The problem is this book is quite dark, like tonally, and I was reading it on a beach and so the vibes just didn't quite match up, and so I put it down and haven't yet picked it up, but I'm really determined to read this by the end of the year. I can't tell you how many of my monthly TBRs I put this book on, but like I'm going to read it. It's so interesting. I have to read it. The second book I'd like to read by the end of the year is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I'm really interested in reading some of his work and Coraline seems like a great place to start. Also, for the spooky season, it seems like a fun read. And it's actually a book I've been interested in reading for a very long time. Like, before I knew who Neil Gaiman was, I knew about Coraline, and I'd love to get to it. Third book is not a specific book that I'd like to read by the end of the year, but like a whole category, and that is just a classic, whether that is Frankenstein or something like The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, or one of the many, many, many other classics that I own because I keep buying them and not reading them. Let's not talk about it, because I'm a little bit ashamed of the 2 shelves on my bookshelf that is just classics that I haven't read. Let's move on. The next question is there a book you think could shock you and become one of your favorites of the year? My immediate thought was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I know I just said I didn't want to repeat books, but this just seems like it could be a favorite. Off the top of my head, my favorite that I have read this year so far is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, and that is a very like dark academia kind of book, just as this is. I also just remembered that I read Six of Crows for the first time this year, and that might be my favorite book. And that's by Leigh Bardugo. And if you find the intersection between If We Were Villains, being dark academia, and Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, they come together to be a dark academia book by Leigh Bardugo. And from what I know, that is Ninth House. So I truly believe this could be my favorite. I have heard mixed things about this book. Some people absolutely love it, other people really do not, and I have no idea where I'll stand. But so far I've really enjoyed like all of the kind of dark academia books that I've read, so I think this will be good. And the final question is, have you made any reading plans for next year? I was gonna say no, but that's a lie. I totally have. They're just not like concrete plans. They're just kind of ideas blowing in the wind that I will hopefully do. First up, I would like to read 50 books. Every year I feel like my goal is 50 books. It's something that I actively have to work towards to hit, but I can comfortably do. I think it's like the perfect middle ground for me. There are also a few authors whose work I'd love to dive into. I mentioned Neil Gaiman before, also Terry Pratchett. I'd love to read the Discworld series, but it's kind of super intimidating to me because there's like a million books. But yeah, I'd love to dive into both of those authors' work. I'd also love to do some like themed reading challenges, whether that is like a certain amount of time to read a bunch of dark academia books or a bunch of book talk books or something like that. Just having a category to stick to and explore I think is really interesting. And lastly, I'd love to do a few readathons next year. I did one earlier this year and it was like really fun. I had a really good time. I'd love to try and plan ahead and have one scheduled so I could maybe make it a community thing so we could cheer each other on and all be reading at the same time. That would be really fun. Those are my reading plans for next year. That was the end of the year book tag. I can't believe we're towards the end of the year now. I've been spending all of my free time trying to get organized for NaNoWriMo and thinking about the books I'm going to read while writing, and then in December, and the year is just ending. And it's so crazy and exciting. I think New Year's are a great time to just restart and refresh, and I'm really excited to just kind of start again. But yes, that's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up. Let me know what your favorite read of the year was. I'm really curious to see if mine is what I think it is. I think I'll have to go through everything I've read and really analyze it, but I'm really excited. I upload twice a week, so you can subscribe to see my new videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye.